Good morning, and welcome to Tech Days. You know, as Mika said, this is my second time at Tech Days. It is the first time in winter, but that's okay. I actually lived in Chicago in the United States for 9 years, and it gets a little cold there too on Lake Michigan. So it's great to be back at the event. I love the city. I love Helsinki, and it's a real honor to be part of Tech Days. We have a lot to talk about today. We have a lot to cover. We're going to take an end-to-end view of the platform, spend a little time talking about some of the investments that we've made in the platform to make it easier for all of you to build modern apps, and we'll talk a little bit about what modern apps are. But I think the best way to frame the discussion is to really step back just for a moment from the technologies, and we'll get into all that, and really take an industry view of how the world has changed, I think, in the last couple of years. It certainly impacts us as a platform provider. It certainly impacts you as people building applications and experiences and services on top of that platform. And this past fall, our CEO, Steve Ballmer, sent out a letter to shareholders. And it was the annual shareholders letter that we always send out at the conclusion of the fiscal year that talks about the year in review and frames the opportunities ahead for the company. And each one of these letters is unique in its own right just because of the constant dynamics of our business year in and year out. But they follow kind of a familiar template, which is framing the opportunity forward for Microsoft as a vendor of packaged software, which is pretty much what we've been for 30 years or more. But this past fall was a little bit different. For the first time, the opportunity for the company was framed as through the lens of devices and services. It was a wholesale, really repositioning of Microsoft, and this was a big deal. A lot of people took notice of this and said, "Hey, this is not the way we think about Microsoft." So this is not only a statement about how we think of ourselves and where we're putting our investment into engineering and sales and marketing and evangelism, which is my world, but it's also a statement about the new reality for our partner ecosystem, our developer community, all the people who have a stake or care about Microsoft in some form or fashion. This is really sort of the new world. And we've been on this path for some time between Xbox and Kinect and Surface and Office 365 and Windows Azure. We've been down this path for a while, but now we've taken some pretty proactive steps to really start to engage the stakeholders in the company, our customers, all of you, our shareholders, everyone, in really thinking about Microsoft as a devices and services company. And if you just look at the landscape that exists today, you know, in 2002, the number of wireless phones exceeded the number of landline connected phones for the first time. And in 2011, the number of mobile devices in the world exceeded the number of human beings in the world, greater than 6 billion. And it's predicted that by 2020, we'll have some 50 billion devices in the world. And this has profound impact for you as developers, because if you want to differentiate in the market and participate in the economic opportunity that creates, you're going to have to be on a lot of devices. You're going to have to be on a lot of screens. There's a lot of code that needs to be written to make sure that you get the distribution you need across all these devices and form factors. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But in a lot of ways, this is the new reality for people who look to devices as a means to which to deliver an experience or an app or a game or something of value to a user. Likewise, on the services side, you know, IDC, I think, said in 2011 that the public cloud business was roughly a $30 billion U.S. Business, and that will climb to $70 billion by the year 2015. That's staggering growth. That's 4 times the growth of the IT industry in general. So if you look at IT spend worldwide, it tends to grow 3-4% a year. In the services space, it grows about 23, 24, 25% compound annual growth year on year. So there's a lot of business, a lot of activity, certainly a lot of application development and architecture work going on here as well. So this is really sort of the industry landscape as it exists today. That's how we think about it, and that's how we think about the opportunity for developers and apps and a lot of interesting things that I think you're doing today and will continue to do going forward. So the theme for today is modern apps. What is a modern app? It's this term that's used quite a bit. It means different things to different people. but we have a point of view on what constitutes or what makes an app modern. First and foremost, it's an app that's connected. You know, it's hard to think of an interesting application today that doesn't have some sort of cloud service running in the back end. It's hard to think of an application today, either a consumer application or a business application, that isn't driven by some sort of cloud service or have some sort of service running in the back end that enhances its value, enhances its capability. Modern apps are also increasingly personal, and I would throw social into that as well. I think if you look at all the devices in the world and everything that's coming, I think there's an increasing expectation among users that some of these application experiences are going to travel across multiple screens in a highly personalized way. So you log in with your ID and your stuff is just there for you. That will increasingly become the expectation, you know, because it used to be when you sat down to write an application, if you had a solid set of CRUD APIs and you could create, read, and update, delete things, that was the basis for a fairly decent app. And in a lot of ways, create, read, update, and delete has been replaced by things like and follow, and friend, and share. And these are the new verbs that really describe what users expect from software going forward. And the third attribute is that these modern applications are increasingly natural. And that's more of I think, a statement of input modality than anything else. Right now, we have an ecosystem of some 700,000 plus applications that are certified for Windows 7. Most of them are mouse and keyboard based. They're not going away anytime soon, but there's a new generation of applications that are also going to be driven by pen, touch, gesture, voice, increasingly natural user interfaces. So I thought it'd be fun to take a look at one example. This is a device that, I'm calling it a device, it's a Coke machine, but it runs software, it has a screen, it's got input modality through the Connect sensor, and Coca-Cola put together this device as a means to engage customers. In this case, the customers are visitors to this shopping mall in Seoul, South Korea, and the idea here is the Connect sensor sees you walk by, challenges you to a dance contest, and if you agree to the challenge and meet the challenge, you get a free Coke. So rather than explain to you all the details of how this works, let's just take a look at the video. I think you'll find it kind of entertaining and kind of fun. Let's have a quick look. What'd you think? That's a modern app. Part of the reason I wanted to show that is just to kind of open up the thinking a little bit about what constitutes a generation of user experiences that we've never seen before, that I think are going to be afforded by new devices, new form factors, the cheapness of technology, and the availability of some of these new inputs. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to take a look at. But now I want to kind of get down to brass tacks and talk about Windows 8. One of the things that we've certainly noticed in the course of talking to developers over the years, over the past couple years especially, the interest in the business of how these platforms actually do in the market is becoming of increasing performance. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I remember once upon a time, technology for technology's sake was good enough to get technical communities excited about what you were doing, and that's still exciting today, but in addition, you have precious time, precious dev cycles that are not to be squandered targeting application platforms that don't matter in the market. So the increasing, I think, attention toward the business is actually a good thing and a healthy thing. So here we are with Windows 8. We're 90 days into launch. We launched 3 months ago. And we said in January that we've sold 60 million licenses of Windows 8. That puts us roughly on par with the trajectory that we saw with Windows 7, but in a much, much more competitive environment today. And it's been great seeing our partner ecosystem increasingly get on board with Windows 8. There's some 1,800 systems certified for Windows 8 today in market and more coming. And we've heard lots and lots of device makers and original equipment manufacturers talk about touch as a place where they're going to continue to invest. We actually have some interesting usage data and telemetry on touch that I'll share with you a little bit later. But so far, so good in terms of market adoption, market uptake. We're very, very pleased with the results, and all the performance indicators associated with the business just continue to trend consistently positive. Now, the thing that you're probably more interested in are how things are going into the App Store. Well, in 2 months after launch, we crossed the 100 million app download threshold for apps from the Windows 8 store. We saw a four-fold increase, a 4x, a quadrupling of app downloads from the store since launch. Since October, every week since October, we've seen week-on-week double-digit percentage increases in the number of unique visitors to the store. So it just continues to compound. And even on Christmas Day, we saw a 150% increase in unique app downloads from the store, which was more than any other platform saw in terms of the holiday bump on Christmas Day. I believe the iPad was 140%, slightly less, and iOS overall was somewhere around 85–90%. So we actually did quite well just on Christmas Day alone. Again, it's another set of performance indicators that are consistently trending positive as we go through subsequent quarters of launch. There's tens of thousands of apps in the store today, growing more and more every day, and the developers that have made the move now, some of the companies that you see here and others that are not on this slide, really see the business opportunity, really see the opportunity to participate in what they think is going to be a huge opportunity or a huge push to get customer reach through the hundreds of millions of PCs that will ship in the coming year. So I thought it would be interesting to hear from one of them. Don't take my word for it. Let's hear a little bit from the folks at Box and how they think about the Windows 8 opportunity. So we're going to show a short video here, and then I promise you that's the end of the videos. We'll get into some demos a little bit later, but I thought it was important to take a look at just this one. Let's roll this video.
Content is at the heart of every successful organization. Customers need to access their content wherever they are. They need to share, they need to collaborate, they need to move their business forward with content. Box provides the solutions to let our customers do that. And so for us, Windows 8 is the opportunity to be on that many more devices, that many more platforms.
What's really exciting about our app on Windows 8 is that we have the ability to plug into the actual file system of Windows 8. So when you're out picking a file or choosing a file to open, Box can be there as a natural extension of the file system. So let's say you're in Mail and you want to pick an attachment. When I select attachments, what's happening is that you're seeing the Windows file picker appear. Let's say you want to pick a file from Box. The whole app is here. You can actually sort by date, you can do semantic zoom, and when you find the file you want, you can just select it and attach it. So that file came from Box straight into your email without you having to open the Box app separately.
When you look at Windows 8 and kind of the different user experience, it doesn't lose the core fundamental need that people have to create files, to be able to share them, to be able to collaborate, which is what we bring to the Windows 8 platform.
There's guidelines for everything from how high the header is to horizontal horizontal scrolling and how the content should look. All these principles really led itself to a really fun design process because we could follow these guidelines but also be creative.
It is a fantastic platform that is really redefining how people interact with software. And that's part of what Box is about as well, is creating an experience for users that is so intuitive and easy to use that they almost forget that they're interacting with software or technology. They're just getting done what they need to get done.
Windows 8 is a groundbreaking opportunity for Box. It's a brand new platform. We are really excited to be on it, and it's going to open up a whole new set of users for us.
You know, it's so interesting talking to these partners who are building apps for Windows 8 because they all have, I think, a unique set of reasons for why they're making the move to build the apps, but they, the level of enthusiasm and excitement is palpable. It's just great talking to these folks. Now let's talk about developing for Windows 8. I mentioned a moment ago that touch is something that I think we should spend a moment or two on. If you use a Windows 8 machine, the login experience, I think you're fairly familiar with it. You're asked for permission to send information back to Microsoft to make the Windows 8 experience better. So a lot of people opt into that, and we get a lot of very, very valuable telemetry data. And so 90 days into launch, one of the big ahas that we got was, I think, a deeper understanding of the importance of touch on these devices. What we found is that when people have a touch device, they're 2 times more often they use the search charm in Windows 8. On a touch device, they're 2.5 times more likely to use the share charm on Windows 8. On a touch device, Windows 8 users are 2.5 times more likely to use snapped views for multitasking, so you can be in 2 apps at once on the same screen. And one of the most interesting things was on a touch device, users are 4.5 times more likely to use a Windows Store app as opposed to desktop mode apps. So as we start to think about this from an application development standpoint, you see all these touch devices coming to market, and you see all kind of the tools that we make available to developers to touch-enable apps. It's pretty compelling data. It basically shows the user engagement. There's data supporting what is almost guaranteed user engagement in a touch-enabled app if the device can support it. I'll talk about the store a little bit later, but one of the things I do want to spend a moment on is the idea that your existing development skills and assets come forward into Windows 8. And this was a big design point. One of the things that we set out to do in the platform was to take the wealth of investment that you have, either in code, in skills, programming language preferences, familiarity with our tools, all the things that sort of make up your CV, your resume, and say, how do we put those things to work in participating in this next generation of platform for Windows? And so this is really the most exciting thing for me, which is if you're a C, C++, C#, Visual Basic developer, or a XAML developer, you can bring all those skills, all of those assets forward and use them in Windows 8. If, on the other hand, you're primarily a web developer and you've bet big on HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and you see the same things that we see in terms of JavaScript becoming an increasingly useful general programming language because the tooling is better and the performance is better. There's a full-fledged application platform in Windows 8 for HTML5 apps. You can write apps in HTML5 and run them on Windows 8. So this is, I think, an incredible opportunity to the extent that we have a developer community today that's fairly invested in Microsoft tools and technologies. You get to bring what you know to Windows 8, and there's a whole community of web developers out there that are fairly focused on HTML5 and are only thinking about it in the context of the browser, when in fact you can actually run HTML5 apps on Windows 8. So what I'd like to do now is just show a few apps, and these are not, I think, terribly technical demos, but the stories behind them are pretty interesting. So this first app is actually an app that was built for Windows Phone 7. It's built by some .NET developers. It's called Cocktail Flow. It's basically a kind of a barkeeper's companion type of application, and it was built in C# and XAML. We can look at an alphabetical list of different types of drinks here. They did a very nice job with the animations and with the UI. We can look at by category, so we can search by base drink. I know it's 9 o'clock in the morning, but we'll just pick vodka just for fun. Look at some vodka drinks. Here's one. I don't know what this is, bocce ball, but you see the nice job they did. They used the accelerometer, so the animations when you jiggle the phone. And it's really optimized for this piece of screen real estate. Now, they did very, very well with this app. They continue to do well with this app. This app's been refreshed for Windows Phone 8. It's in the Windows Phone store. You can go get it today. And it's done quite well for them. But now, what I'd like to do is switch over to the Windows 8 version of this app. We'll go ahead and start it here. And what you see here is a familiar and consistent user experience, but it's not the same. It's optimized for the screen real estate that we have on this bigger machine. So we can go back here and look at vodka, and we can see our bocce ball drink, and now it's optimized much more for the screen real estate. But the story behind this app is actually more important or more interesting than the app itself. The app pattern that they use to build this app is model view, view model, which is a very common app pattern for a device experience of this sort. And so in the model, in the business logic tier, 80% of the C# code came over. So under the covers, everything that you're seeing here, almost everything you're seeing here, came from the phone app. They were able to reuse 80% of the logic code, which was all C#. Now, the XAML, not so much, because the guidance that we give is you should optimize for the device. They obviously have a larger screen size here. But one thing we can do is we can bring in another application, and we can view Cocktail Flow in snapped view. So this is Bing Finance, a lot of bad news coming from the stock market. We won't pay attention to that. But let's go over here. And what you'll see here is these images on the right reduced in size. What you're seeing here is nearly a direct lift of the XAML from the phone app. They basically moved all that over. In snapped view, a lot of these applications use kind of the same real estate that is similar to a phone screen. So they basically took these assets, reused them, and were able to port a lot of the XAML over to the Windows Phone app for support in snap view. So it's a great example of not only code reuse in the logic tier with all the C#, but they were actually able to use some of the XAML from the phone to support snap views on the Windows 8 app. Now let's switch over to another machine here. And we'll take a look at another app for Windows 8. This is a Surface RT, and I'm going to take us to Cut the Rope. Many of you are familiar with this game. This was popularized on iOS, and we worked with Zepto Labs to build an HTML5 version of this game for IE. And the idea there was to show off a lot of the HTML5 work that we had done in IE9. So if you go to cuttherope.ie right now, you can go see that site. This is the Windows 8 app, and one of the hallmarks of this app is just the very rich animations, very, very smooth. I don't profess to be very, very good at Cut the Rope, but I can at least get through a couple levels. And you see the implementation here that we've done with HTML5 is very, very rich. All this came over from the browser. Now, one of the interesting things that happened here was that in the course of bringing the code over to HTML5, we wanted to use a lot of the native HTML5 APIs. So a lot of the 2D animations that you see here, all the 2D animations you see here, were done in HTML5 canvas. Now, what happened was the game became too fast. It almost became unplayable. And we couldn't figure out why it was that was happening. Well, it turns out that in the iOS version of the game, every animation in this game has a 16 millisecond drawing loop to allow time to draw essentially tens of thousands of triangles to render the rope, which is essentially a Bezier curve. And in Windows, we only consume about 5 milliseconds for JavaScript execution and display. And so the fix was to install a 10 millisecond hold to slow the game down to make it playable at the speed that it was meant to be played at. So the JavaScript performance was that good in Chakra, which was the new JavaScript engine at the time in IE. WinRT in Windows 8 uses that very same JavaScript engine. And so basically, Zepto Labs was able to go from a web app to a Windows app in about 2 or 3 weeks. There we go. I'm not going to play anymore because I'm not doing quite well. But they're able to go from a web app to a Windows app in 2 to 3 weeks. And they use things, they did things like use charms, for example. So we can use the share charm and share this out with different apps that are running on this machine. If you go and look at the live tile, here's a status of where I am in the game and that I need to do more work. So it's a very rich live tile that draws you back into the game and increases usage. And so what you're seeing here is code reuse on the HTML5 side, taking advantage of some Windows features, and it really underscores the JavaScript performance that we've done both in IE and in WinRT as well. So let's look at one more, and this game is Agent P Strikes Back. This is a game that was built by Disney. Agent P is Perry the Platypus. He is a character in a very well-known animated series in the United States, but it's actually on television here in Finland. It's on Disney Channel Scandinavia and Disney XD Scandinavia. So if you have small children, you may have seen some of these characters on your television. And so they built an HTML5 game in the browser, again, taking advantage of a lot of the work that we did in IE. So you have this great hardware-accelerated experience. So for the game here, we have the HTML5 brought over. This is the Windows 8 app. We have touch controls on the game itself. And so I could just play the game here and pick up these achievements. Now, it begs the question, if the browser experience was so good, if we have hardware acceleration, full screen experience, it's pinnable, it feels like an app, why do we need to bring this over to Windows? Why have it on the platform at all? And it's a fair question. For a lot of applications, the browser is probably the best option and makes the most sense. But in this case, Disney, like Cut the Rope, wanted to use the share charm, so this game is shareable with mail. If you look at the live tile, this is a very visually rich live tile. This is branding, right? This is the branding that they wanted. But the other thing that they wanted to do is take advantage of the full Windows ecosystem. So let me show you what I mean by that. In this case, we're going to use a peripheral. So I'm going to plug in an Xbox controller. And now we can play this game using Xbox, using the Xbox controller. And so what this says is, you have, when you put an app on Windows, you have the full sort of power of the Windows ecosystem behind you. In this case, it's an Xbox controller for a game, but it could be a printer, it could be a camera, it could be any kind of USB connected device that you can bring in the back end and use it to supplement the experience in your game. So in this case, HTML5, again, repurposed from the browser into a Windows 8 app, a couple, 3 weeks, implemented a lot of the different things in terms of the share charm and other unique features of Windows. And for a game like this, a game controller makes a lot of sense. So that was just kind of a quick look at how we've really seen a lot of the companies and partners that we're working with reuse their existing code very, very successfully. So now what I want to do is switch gears a little bit and talk about Windows Phone. Again, a business update I think is appropriate. A lot of people are interested in how the phone is doing, and it's been just a great 3 months for us since the launch of Windows Phone 8. What we're seeing is we get a lot of data from our retail partners about how things are going in the channel. 3 times more consumers are walking into retail asking about Windows Phone. We have 4 times as many of our partners recommending Windows Phone through sales incentives and the like. We have 2 times as many of them carrying Windows Phone. This is huge. Now, this is in the 12 weeks since launch. We've doubled the number of places in the world where you can actually go buy a Windows Phone. 4 out of 5 of them have reported back that the brand affinity of Windows Phone is actually on the rise. We've overtaken BlackBerry in a number of markets. We have higher share than Apple in something like 7 markets. We have double-digit market share in 4 markets in the world, one of which is here in Finland, which is great. And really the headline here is that worldwide in the 4th quarter compared to the 4th quarter the previous year, we've quadrupled the number of phones that we've sold. And so it's just a remarkable achievement. But like Windows 8, you're probably curious about how things are going with developers with the store. Well, the 12 weeks since launch, we've seen 15,000 apps submitted to the store. That's roughly twice the increase that we saw with the Windows Phone 7 SDK. That's kind of our baseline data. We've seen over 40,000 new developers registered. That's 1.5 times greater than what we saw with Windows Phone 7. A 75% increase in app downloads, over 90% increase in revenues paid out to developers. 46 of the top 50 apps in the world, based on their popularity in terms of Android and iOS downloads, are on Windows Phone today. And in the store, there's over 130,000 apps currently, including some apps from here in Finland. And so a lot of companies have really seen the success that we've had in Windows Phone, certainly here in Finland, and some great companies, some very highly recognizable companies making the move to Windows Phone. But I would impress upon you that this is still a global opportunity in addition to what you can do locally. Windows Phone is in 191 markets worldwide. We pay out currencies to developers, or make payments to developers in 50 different currencies. And so it is clearly a global opportunity. You'll never know. If you put an app in the Windows Store, you'll never know where your next set of downloads is going to come. And so from a technology standpoint, the reason developers are excited about Windows 8 is that Windows Phone 8 is that we've done so much in the platform. You know, developers are a pretty vocal group when they don't get what they want. And so we got a lot of feedback after Windows Phone 7, and we heard that feedback and implemented quite a bit of it in Windows 8. So for example, one of the pieces of feedback we got was that you wanted to make it easier to build fast and fluid UI. Well, we've done that in Windows Phone 8. We've not only added new controls, but we've improved the performance of some of the more existing controls. So if you're doing things like grids and lists and panoramas, your apps will be noticeably faster. You asked to do more with live tiles. So we've given you 3 different sizes of live tiles to choose from, and then beyond that, you can actually send notifications to the lock screen. You can update lock screen wallpaper with your app. You asked to do more with speech. There's a fully fledged speech platform now available in Windows Phone 8. You asked us to do more to improve the Dev Center, make you more efficient. We've done that. We've completely overhauled the Dev Center and done things like allowed in-app purchasing to make you more money. You asked for deeper integration with phone experiences, so we've done things like open up the camera so you can build more integrated Lens applications. You asked for things like multitasking. Well, in Windows Phone 8, now you can do things like track location in the background while your app is running. You also asked for more advanced networking support, so things like Bluetooth data transfer, peer networking with both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and proximity connectivity through near-field communication, all provided in Windows 8. So if you look at all the requests, all the feedback that we got in the wake of Windows Phone 7, 90% of the top box requests that were processed, we implemented in the platform. Now, I want to kind of tie these two back together, Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8. When we look at this kind of device landscape that we talked about earlier, I think there's increasing expectation that to differentiate, you're going to need to be on a lot of different screens. And a lot of the companies that we compete with in the platform space have a point of view that tablets and phones are mobile devices, and desktops and notebooks are in some other category, and the two are fine to keep separate for whatever reason. We couldn't disagree more. We wholeheartedly disagree with that point of view. When you look at the hundreds of millions of PCs that are going to ship, and say what you will about the amount of growth in the space, expansion or contraction, it's a lot of units, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And being able to take devices or take experiences across the phone, across the tablet, and across desktop notebooks, desktop all-in-ones, which is kind of a resurgent category now, that at one point a few years ago, I think all but one manufacturer had exited the space completely. Windows 8 has completely reinvigorated subsegments of the PC community or the PC industry that we think is going to create a huge opportunity for developers to put experiences on those boxes. This is where I think the real opportunity is. And from a platform standpoint, we've done a lot of work to bring some coherence and some cohesion to the phone platform along with the PC and tablet platform. And so Windows Phone 8 was a huge foundational release for the company in the sense that now you have a shared core with Windows. You have a common set of APIs, so you can take advantage of being able to write apps that span these multiple screens. And you can see by the very top layer on this picture, you have some applications that actually share code between them. That was certainly the case with Cocktail Flow and a number of other apps that are in the store today. So we think this is the this is the path forward. We'll continue to iterate on this, but we think that from a development platform standpoint, this is a best-in-class implementation in terms of bringing some coherence across all the different devices, screen sizes, form factors that are going to matter and are going to decide who makes money and who succeeds in the marketplace. So what we want to do now is show you how easy it is to develop across all these screens. I'd like to invite Jukka out to the stage to give us a quick look at developing for Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8. Jukka?
All right, thank you, Tim. Okay, so good morning to everyone also from my side. What we're going to do next is do a really quick view about the techniques that we use when we are doing a sharing code. So over here, I still have that awesome demo for Tim, but I'm actually jumping on this side. So I have a Visual Studio over here. It is, at the moment, if you're building an application for Windows Phone, Windows 8, it's really easy. One thing to remember, though, is to always remember to optimize the UI, the view. So that's the part that actually the users are touching. That's the part that makes sure that they are engaged with your application. What goes under the hood, that's all code. That's view models, that's different kind of connections to the backend systems and so on. So the view is something that you need to remember that will be highly optimized for your applications. I'm going to run this application so you can see this is really simple one, which is like tech days, to-do items. We can set something over here, what we need to do today during this event. It is hard-coded, the data that we can see over there. I can remove stuff from here. I can add stuff over there like that. But if I close this application, it will actually be in the same state because it's hard-coded over the demo content that we have over there. Just to see that, I'm going to jump over here. We can see that I have two different projects within this solution. Both of the solutions the projects are built in the same way. They both have a view model which represents the data and provide that to the view. And now if I jump over here, I'm just not going to rename that, just going to choose that one. If I go over here, okay, now I can see that the type is too small, or the font. One nice feature within Visual Studio is the quick launch that I have over here, because I always think about where do I find those settings. Just going over here and let's say font size, if I type that correctly, jump over there, changing that one. Really neat feature of Visual Studio to actually do stuff easily. Hopefully you can see that to the background now. So what I have over here is the data that is hard-coded in the view, just because of the sake of this demo. But I want to change this in a way that you see that's actually different data. So another nice tip for Visual Studio is pressing Alt key at the same time when I'm dragging my mouse. I can actually do this and say Windows 8 demo, like that. Saving that one. And I'm going to do the same thing for the phone at the same time as we're over here. So let's go over there, changing that one too. Hitting the Alt key again. And let's say phone. And we're pretty much good to go. But I'm going to show now the phone side of the project here. So you can see what we actually have for the as an application. So now I'm launching the Windows Phone application, which is obviously the UI is different because you need to optimize. Obviously, this is not the highly optimized as a modern app, but anyway, it's as a sample. You can see that we have the same logic under the hood, and actually we copied those. It's exactly the similar logic that we have. So to say that, it's really important that we could make sure that we optimize the work that we do. So to actually do that, we need to, in this case especially, we want to share content that we have. We want to use different techniques to actually use that same code base, same classes within our applications. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to jump into the Windows 8 view model. Over here we can see that actually the data model, which is really simple in this case, is actually defined in that view model. So that's something that we want to abstract that away. And as an example, I'm going to copy, actually cut that away from there. And I'm going to use a technique called portable libraries. So portable libraries is a technique that when we can include a separate project to our solution and share that solution across different projects. So therefore, we can use that same code, same logic, same algorithms that we have from that particular project. So I'm going to add that one. So let's go over there, add new project. Choosing the portable class library, I'm just going to rename that in a new way, Tech Days, like that. And what it does next is asking me, okay, what are the targeted frameworks that I want to support? Depending on what I choose over there, it limits the APIs that are actually supported, because all of the APIs and all of the code that I write to the portable library needs to be compatible with all the targeted frameworks. So in this case, we have a Windows Phone 8 application over there. We're not building Xbox 360, so I'm pretty good with those settings. And over here, I have out-of-box one class. I'm going to actually use that one, just paste my to-do item data model over there, and just rename that so I would know that that's actually the one what I'm going to use. All right, now that I did this, if I now jump back to the view model that I had from Windows 8, we can see that we're missing something from there. And Visual Studio is so kind enough to actually hint us and that we're missing a reference. So the reference that we need is actually to reference to the portable class libraries to actually use that. So I'm going to do the reference right now. So going to over here, choosing the solution, taking that one. I'm going to do the same thing for the Windows Phone over there, adding that one, solution, portable. There we go. And now what I'm going to do next is since I changed already, I removed that from here. I just need to use the help of Visual Studio, pressing Control dot, and it actually will give me the using statement hint for that one, or it should actually. Let's see what I'm doing wrong over here. Let's see. I have the portable class, but I didn't choose that. That's a tricky one. They actually requires us to do the job as it should. Okay, so now I added that also on that side. But the other one, what I wanted to change also is on the Windows Phone side. So let's go over here. And at this point, you probably figure out, wondering, wait a minute, we're doing the exactly same thing for both of those projects. Would there be any other better, easier way to do that? And as a demo over here, I'm going to do that. I'm going to remove this view model from the Windows Phone project totally. So now I'm missing the view model for Windows Phone. What I'm going to do next is actually add, but I'm going to add the one which I have over here in the Windows 8 project. So I'm going to copy that path, the physical path for that one, going to the view model, choosing add, existing items, pasting that over there, which is not the right one. I almost copied the wrong thing. Let's see again. Copy. There we go. Going over here, view model, add existing item. And hopefully that's in the clipboard, right? But I'm not adding the physical copy of that. So what now would happen if I would click add, it would actually take that file and make a copy of it. Instead, I'm choosing to make that as a link. So adding as a link, that makes that a shareable class, which means that I can use that same class from both of those projects. But even though if I change something for one of the solutions, it will actually reflect it to the other one too. So now if I take this one and compile this, we can see that we still have two errors over there. And the errors comes actually from the code behind for the views, because the view is also pointing to the same data model that we used. And as we put those to the portable classes, we also need to add that reference or actually the using statement for those. So I'm just adding those two small things over there. With that, I'm pretty much done with this one. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this one. I'm going to close them all just to have that clear. And now I'm going to open the Windows Phone, the view model from Windows Phone project. Remember, that was actually originally on the Windows 8 side. So I'm going to jump over here. And over here now we want to change something so it's not Windows 8 demo. It is Tech Days demo. Okay, let's keep it like that. It's okay. If I now run this application, we actually have that same view model used on both of those applications. So I have that over here, and I also have that same thing in the Windows 8 application, which is over here. So okay, with that, I showed you really, really quickly the two of the principles, how to actually share code within. Obviously, it's not so simple. You don't take like these small data models that you just drop in the single place. The key thing is that portable classes are compiled. You have one assembly that you can reference. When the shared classes, you need to share each of those separately. So it depends on the situation, and I will show you another thing later on also, which explains more about using the shared classes. With that, I'll let Tim back to the stage. Thank you.
Here you go. So none of this, of course, matters if you're not getting paid. And so monetization is another area where I'm just going to spend a moment talking about some of the work that we've done there. Every Windows device, Windows Phone, Windows 8 device has an integrated store on the device, and we've really taken what I would describe as a flexible approach to monetization. The thing that we have now is 2 years, thereabouts, of backward-looking industry data about who's making money, who isn't, how long the long tail really is, how hard it is to monetize on other platforms, and some of the things that developers do and don't like about their experiences working with other platform providers. And so some of the things that we've done in Windows 8, for example, is given you the ability to make more money. For example, if you hit a certain revenue threshold, $25,000 US, the 70-30 revenue split accelerates to 80-20. And there's a number of companies that are enjoying the benefits of that today, including Rovio with Angry Birds, Zepto Labs with Cut the Rope, and a number of others. We give you very flexible terms in terms of using third-party commerce platforms, for example, and ad platforms. You don't have to use our back end if you don't want to. You can use your own and keep 100% of the money. You don't have to use Microsoft advertising if it's an ad monetized app. You can use the ad platform of your choice. It's fine with us. We've taken a number of steps to really unblock a lot of the barriers that get in the way of getting from an idea to getting paid. And that's, I think, hugely differentiating for Windows, and I think this is going to sort of hopefully reset the industry standard in how people think about monetizing apps, because we're in this adolescent period at the moment where now we've got 2 years of data behind us, and now we're seeing, hey, we're finding out the truth about how hard or how easy it actually is to monetize a lot of these apps. So let's talk about Windows in the cloud, and the one takeaway I want you to remember from this particular section is that our cloud platform is Windows. I'm going to talk about Windows Azure, I'll talk about Windows Server, but at the topmost level, our cloud platform is Windows. And this really starts with an abstract discussion of what the cloud actually is. I know a lot of people get very tangled up into this public-private cloud discussion and what's running where, and if it's a private cloud or if it's on-prem, it's not really cloud computing. We'll talk about that in a minute. At the topmost level, cloud computing is really a design point. It's a set of descriptors that describe what an app is and what it does. Are the resources pooled? Does it scale elastically? Is it measured and metered in a certain way? These are the attributes that really define what cloud computing is. And one of the things that we're doing in Windows is giving you the ability to implement this design point yourself, if that's the way you want to roll out your app, but we've taken this design point and implemented it ourselves in our data center. We call it Windows Azure. We rent it out to the public on a pay-as-you-go basis, but we've also given you the ability to implement this same design point yourself using Windows Server and System Center if you want to do it in a dedicated fashion. So what I want to do here is really separate the discussion of what is the cloud from where is the application actually running. This is what cloud computing is. And so the question becomes, how much flexibility do I have in terms of deployment choice? Well, it turns out you have a lot. You know, public cloud, that's a shared environment. Our public cloud is Windows Azure. It's shared by a lot of different companies, including internal Microsoft properties. It's in our data center. It's not on yours. We won't sell you Azure in a box. But if you do want to implement the cloud design point yourself, you can buy Windows Server and System Center and do it yourself and implement it in a dedicated environment in your data center. We believe that the path forward for cloud computing is going to be a mix of both. A lot of the companies that we compete with in this space are doing one or the other. In public cloud, Google and Amazon clearly have gone down that path, and that's not a criticism of anything they're doing. It's just a statement of where they've chosen to focus. Meantime, we have customers or companies in the commercial packaged software business like Oracle and IBM that are telling the cloud story through the lens of on-premise deployment and dedicated infrastructures. That's fine too. That's the business they've chosen to be in. We think the path forward for cloud computing is going to be a mix of both. You'll really want to be here at 10:30 when Jeff Woolsey is here, because he'll take you very deep into what we're doing on the private cloud front with Windows Server and System Center. And then tomorrow for the Day 2 keynote, Beat Schwegler will take us very, very deep into what we're doing in Windows Azure on the public cloud front. But the message I want you to take away here is that Windows gives you the ability to decide how and where you want to deploy these apps and these services. Now, from a platform standpoint, a lot of people don't really associate Windows with open. But that's not the case anymore. The world has changed. We've changed too. I would submit to you that Windows is among the most open cloud platforms in the industry today. Windows interoperates with industry standard protocols like REST, like JSON, like AtomPub, and others. Windows supports the programming languages that you like to code in, whether it's .NET or Java or PHP or Node or Python or others. Windows supports popular open source technologies like Hadoop, like MongoDB, CouchDB, MySQL, and others. Windows actually gives back to the open source community by open sourcing parts of .NET and supplying multiple libraries for non-Microsoft technologies and publishing them on GitHub. In the case of Windows Azure, Windows actually gives you the ability to run Linux VMs in our public cloud. And we also supply tools for you to deploy those VMs from desktop Linux or Mac, because we realize a lot of developers don't use Windows machines. That shouldn't stop you from using Windows in the back end. So we've done a bunch of work here to make this as open a platform as we possibly could. Another thing is it's enterprise grade. We have a number of companies, obviously tens of thousands of customers using Azure today. We've doubled the amount of compute that we've sold to customers in the last 6 months. We have some 4 trillion objects in storage. But the question we get most often is, how are you using Azure internally? You know, start talking to me about when Office 365 runs on Azure. Office 365 does use Azure. Parts of Bing use Azure. Halo 4, which is our flagship game for the Xbox console, uses Windows Azure. Specifically, uses the service bus, among other things, to bring in all the multiplayer game statistics from the console into Waypoint, which is the central hub for the Halo community. Windows Azure also helped the Halo team deal with the spikes in usage that occurred right after launch that we knew were coming, but didn't want to have to build up and end up spending a bunch of capital being over capacity for what we knew would be a temporary situation. So we're betting on Windows Azure internally. It is very much enterprise grade. 25 plus years of selling infrastructure and products into the enterprise has taught us a thing or two about meeting enterprise requirements. We've rolled all that learning into what is now Windows in the cloud, Windows Azure, and Windows Server. Now, the bridging technologies that bring these two together are equally important. I get a lot of questions about, is this just a branding thing? And no, it's not. These are different products. They are different offering, but there are common technologies that span these two. The identity platform in Active Directory is the same between Server and Azure. The virtualization platform between the two in Hyper-V is the same between Server and Azure. The application platform in .NET is the same. From a development standpoint, the tool set you use, you can build apps and deploy them to Server and Azure from the same development environment. And you can manage all this stuff through a single pane of glass in System Center. So again, Jeff Woolsey will be here at 10:30 to take us very, very deep into these particular topics. But I wanted to place both Windows Azure and Windows Server in this broader context for the subsequent speakers. Now, one of the things that we've talked about, I think, for the bulk of today's discussion has been device experiences and how to make device experiences more engaging and modern and cool and interesting. One of them is depends on how easy you can wire up a cloud service in the back end. So one of the things we want to show you, I would characterize as a tease, a sneak preview of what we're going to talk about tomorrow with Windows Azure. And that's Windows Azure Mobile Services, which is a service that runs within Windows Azure that provides services in the back end like notifications for device experiences. So I'd like to invite Yuka back out to the stage to give us a quick demo of Windows Azure Mobile Services.
All right.
Welcome back.
Thank you, thank you. So we all need good friends, right? And one of the good friends of devices is Windows Azure. And the reason for that one is that actually the development for that platform is really, really easy. What I have over here is exactly the same project that we looked earlier over there. So I'm just going to close this so we can follow up easily. So first of all, I want to add to these two programs, to these two solution or projects, I want to add the backend, the support for the backend. Because without the connected backend system, well, it doesn't make so much sense to actually save anything over there if you can't use that with the other device. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump to my browser, just going to azure.com. When I come over here, I just choose Portal. And on this dashboard that I have over here, I have different services. And what I'm going to use now is actually the mobile services that I have over here. So the one what I have already created is one of the services, Tech Days. Beat is going to probably show about that also, how to that is created. But I have that already in place over there. If I show that one, we can see that in the data I have one table which is empty, and that table actually contains all of that data that I'm going to save from that class that I define in the portable class. So what you can see over here is that, as I said, everybody needs a good friend, and Azure is a friend of devices. We're not only talking about Windows devices, Windows Phone, Windows 8. We're also talking about iOS and Android. If you want to get started with the iOS, Android, Windows Phone, Windows 8 applications, you can actually go over here, browse the tab that you want to have, and actually download an existing project for yourself. And get started. So how I built this application for the demo was actually I took both of these Windows Store app and Windows Phone app. I combined those, added some of the view model approaches over there to actually make the point for the sharing code. So over here, what we need to do, I'm instead of actually downloading an existing application, which I won't do, I'm going to connect my existing application to the service that I already created. The first thing we need to do, we need to install the SDKs for the mobile services. I'm going to run this even though I already have done this, so just to show this experience that we have. So now it's installed. So that's what we need to install. We need to do that for both of the project type, Windows Store and Windows Phone app. The other one, what I need to have is this key over here. So I'm going to copy that one and jump into the project that I have. So on the project side, I'm going to go and place that as a global variable for my project. So I'm going to drop that over there. And this is the one which I get on a global level. I get the reference to my project and my services on the back end. What I need to also add is the reference to the SDK that I'm using. And do note the SDKs for Windows Phone and Windows 8 is different. So therefore, what we need to do is we need to take the, let's see, am I missing something over here? I'm missing probably that one. Pardon? I didn't do that again? Oh, you're so good. I need to give you something nice after this one. All right, so let's see. Yes, that's XP programming with partners. Thank you. So with that one, now I have the reference for that one. I need to do the exactly same thing also for the Windows Phone project. So let's go over here. Let's go to the app. And I'm going to drop the exactly same code over there. And also adding the resource and the reference over there. Okay. To the project, to the extension, and using the SDK for the Windows mobile services. And there we go. Now we have that. But there's one but. What happens when we actually go to the view model that we have on the phone side? We can see that actually we don't. The content that we have over here is still the hard-coded content. So this demo, which is really simple, it just fetches some data, inserts some data to the items, to the list that was locally managed. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to take this class, I'm going to delete that one, I'm going to drag a new one, which is the version, the exactly same thing, but the version of using Windows mobile services, adding also that using statement that we need to have over there. And now this is shared between both of those projects. So I took the same view model, dropped that code over there, and actually now I'm supporting both of those applications out of the box. The one thing that to note, though, is that since we have this service reference on the global level, the challenge that we have is that this view model doesn't see that global namespace. To add that, we can't add that in a way to just using statement over there because they are in a different namespace. They are two different separate projects. So using a technique called conditional compiling is a way that we can actually say to the compiler that if this is a Windows 8 application, then do compile this row that we have over here. If it's not, if it's a Windows Phone 8 application, then use this one. So this actually allows us to have the conditional compiling in a way that we can choose which part of the code is actually compiled during that compilation process. If I now take and run this one, let's go to the phone side, taking that one, the starting project, jumping over here. And now we can see that we have the list over here that I had something over there. I can remove these. I can have that. We also see that we have a refresh button. The reason is because we don't use, at the moment, we don't use the push notification from the back end. And Beat is going to show that tomorrow in the keynote how to actually do that. But since we don't have that, the application won't know that the data was updated in the server unless we're doing the refresh in this demo. So what I want to add over here, I just want to add something like, let's say, what do we need to do? We need to remember to give the feedback. Let's add that one. These are some tasks that we need to do for Tech Ready. We need to eat. Remember to eat also. And remember to drink. That's probably beer in the evening. And because it's going to be really good parties, it's going to be another beer too. And let's put a third one too. All right. So now we have a task list for this evening, and we're pretty much good to go with that one. Now if I jump to the Windows 8 version over here and just going over there and choosing that as a startup project, we can see that now we have the different app, but it fetches that same information from there. And I can see my manager over here looking at me really badly about the beer, so maybe one is enough for the evening. And just like networking, let's put it like this. There we go. Okay, with that, I showed you how easy it is to actually implement the mobile services backend system and the services. And since we had the shared code, we had the portable libraries, it's really, really easy to actually do that code only once and use those on both of the project. With that, I thank you and let Tim to close the keynote. Thank you.
Here you go. So that was a great demo, but it doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of everything that we're doing in Windows Azure. It's so much more than compute, storage, networking, even mobile services. It's traffic management, it's content delivery, it's identity and access control. So tomorrow in the Day 2 keynote, Beat Schwegler will take us through all of that depth and all of that capability. So I actually want to close here. Part of what we wanted to do today is give you a sense of the opportunity on Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 and really get you thinking more broadly about distribution, monetization on the myriad of devices that are out there in the world. Every one of them is a monetization opportunity. Every one of them is a customer reach opportunity. And what we're doing in the platform is to try and make it as easy as possible for you to go capitalize on that. And of course, powering a lot of those experiences through services in the back end is a critical and increasingly important piece. So I'm going to close there. I believe we have a break until 10:30, but in the meantime, please fill out your evals. We actually use them, we read them, we act on the feedback, and we use that to make this event better and better year on year. So I'll close there. Have a great half-hour break, I guess, and enjoy the rest of Tech Days. Thank you.